Welcome to this hybrid meeting of the Leisure and Community Services Committee for the month of April. Could I now ask that everyone please put their microphones on mute at all times unless invited to speak by myself. Can I also ask ICT to please confirm that we've begun live streaming? Thank you. Okay, item 1 is apologies. I have received apologies from Councillor Keith Hawhan and Councillor Owen Tennyson, that is the Chair and Vice Chair of this committee, hence why I am deputising tonight and Chair. So have we any further apologies? No? Okay. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest, and as usual, we'll just take those as and when they arrive through the meeting. Item 3 is business plan reports. So I'm going to ask Sharon to take us through these 2 items for health and recreation and community development.
Good evening, members. The report before you tonight sets out the Council's strategic planning framework in the context of the community plan and the corporate plan and the business plan. The report also outlines our links to our COVID recovery, inclusive growth, green agenda and medium-term financial strategy. Attached at Appendix 1 and 2 are the business plans for the Health and Recreation Department and the Community Development Department. These outline the key objectives for these services in the incoming year. Delivery will take place against these objectives, and the performance will be reported on a 6-monthly basis to the Service Committee. The decision before members tonight is to approve the Health and Recreation Community Development Departmental Business Plans and the action plans contained in Appendix 1 and 2. And if members have any questions, officers are content to take those. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sharon. Members, any questions? I'm not seeing any hands. Members, do we have any proposals? Alderman Twyble?
Yeah. I'm happy to propose the acceptance of the reports.
Thank you, Alderman Twyble. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McNeil, thank you very much. Okay, folks, moving on to item 4. This is the Health and Recreation Report. We have a number of items for decision. So first up is 4.1. And this is the Armagh Banbridge Craigavon Sports Forum. And I would ask Gillian Stewart to take us through these, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Yes, item 4.1 is Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon Sports Forum. Sports Forum has been in operation for 6 years now, and their main role is to support athletes, coaches and sports clubs through financial assistance. They also play a key role in the organisation of the Junior and Senior Sports Awards. The recommendation before you is that a service level agreement is signed between Council and the Sports Forum and that a maximum of £60,000 is paid to the Sports Forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Members, any questions? Councillor Tinsley?
Ready? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chair. I'm just happy to know many of the young people in the area that has availed of this, and it's very much appreciated. So very happy to propose this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tinsley. Alderman Spears?
Chairman, I have been involved, as others, in the previous sports forum and the Legacy Councils, and I must say it has proved immense value to a wider section of our young people right across the new borough, and I certainly have no problem in seconding the proposal. I just seek clarity on the amount of money is that an increase or a decrease, or is it the same? I've no doubt it's budgeted for, but I'm just seeking clarity on that. But I'm happy to second the proposal.
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Spears. I'll bring Gillian back in.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Alderman Spears, for the question. Yes, it is budgeted for within the sports development budget, and it's around the same as what it was last year. Thank you.
Councillor McNeil. Okay, members, we have that proposal that's been proposed and seconded. So we'll move on then to item 4.2, and this is the Armagh, Banbridge, Craigavon Summer Scheme for Children with Disabilities All-Stars. And again, I'd ask Gillian to take us through this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, item 4.2 is Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon Summer Scheme for Children with Disabilities, commonly known as the All-Star Summer Scheme. This scheme takes place for 3 weeks and it offers fun and challenging sport and physical activity, art and music sessions for around 70 young people aged 7 to 17 years with a disability and their siblings. The recommendation before you is that delegated authority is given to the Strategic Director to accept letter of offer from the Trust for a maximum of £10,000 to deliver the All-Star Summer Scheme for 2022. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. I have a number of lights on. Councillor Tinsley. Sorry, folks. Just going to remind you to pause until you see yourselves on screen before you speak, okay?
Thank you, Chair. And it must have been I must have beat her by a split second, Chair, in the respect of Councillor Flaherty coming in to support this as well. Obviously, as Deputy Lord, in the past as Deputy Lord Mayor, I saw the fantastic work that they were doing, and it's just wonderful to see that this is actually coming again this year. And just happy to propose or second or whatever. So just delighted to see that it's coming, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tinsley. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for letting me in. And yes, I'm more than happy to second Councillor Tinsley's proposal of this. Most of you will know how I feel about this scheme. I can't even put it into words. Like Councillor Tinsley, when I was Lord Mayor, it was one of the highlights of my year, this scheme. It is so special and it is so important, and particularly that their siblings are also involved with them. So it brings everybody together. I get actually quite emotional about it because it really is just something else, and I'm so glad that we're continuing with this. Gillian, you say there's 70, you think 70 again. What can we do to increase this? And there's 10,000. What do we have to do to get a wee bit more money put into this, just so that it can be supported? And know the staff are excellent. They're so good with the children. But this is a really good example of a really good thing that council does. So more than happy to second. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Flaherty. I think we can all agree with the sentiments expressed by yourself and Councillor Tinsley. Gillian, do you want to respond to Councillor Flaherty, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Flaherty, for the compliments. Yes, this is a great scheme, and ideally, I suppose we would want to do more than 3 weeks. But ultimately, 70, I think, is what we can cope with, dividing it over the 3 weeks. And in terms of the budget, so there's 10,000 from the Trust and 10,000 from Council in the delivery of it. So if we could increase the numbers, we most certainly would like to, but that would probably involve a bit of an increase in money from Council and from the Trust. And we probably need to extend the weeks as well. So because it just depends on the nature of the children that are coming and also their disabilities and the ratios and things that we're working for. So it's very tailored to the young people's needs. So yes, very happy to, look and see, whether we can banded, so we would need to look at the budgets with both the trust and ourselves to see what that could look like. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. I'll just bring Councillor Flaherty back in.
Just very briefly, Chair, thanks for letting me back in. Gillian, thank you for that. I just know that the demand for this is huge. And I know that you're catering for 70. How many are we missing in the borough? How many children are missing out on this? Because we do want to enhance this as much as we can, and we should be very proud of what we do provide for children with all abilities as best we can across the board. So if that's the case, can we look at this again for next year and try maybe to squeeze another week out of it or something, or split it up or somewhere? It would break my heart if there was children that just really could not get in. I wouldn't dream of seeing any of them turned away. So if that can just be kept on the radar, I'd be very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Councillor Tinsley.
Can I? Oh, it's just Gillian's. Chair, if that needs a seconder, I am content to second that if that's needed or proposed and seconded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tinsley. Councillor Cosby.
Thanks, Chair, and apologies for my lateness. But just in relation to this item, I mean, I think we know from reading this right, and I just haven't got my papers right in front of me at this stage, but the Health Trust gives a letter of offer 10,000 and the council match it. Is that right? For 10,000, so we have £20,000 pot for a 3-week summer programme. Now, forgive me, and I know that the programme is really valuable and the work and effort that was put in is really valuable. And I don't mean this maybe to sound how it's going to come out, but sometimes I don't think that council can deliver as much for particular amounts of money. Now, I don't mean that to be reflective on officers by any means at all. I do get, the example actually that's in my mind is that around Christmas and the Christmas quiet time events and how much a community and voluntary organisation can deliver for enormous amounts of sums of money compared against what council can deliver. And I wonder, going forward, and it's not to diminish the programme, it's hugely important, hugely valuable, and I'm more than happy to support it. But I think maybe we should have a conversation around how that budget is allocated, what it's allocated to. And I'd really be interested in the figures around that. I know many groups across the borough, some even in my own constituency, St Mary, Seago, things like that, and they're working with hundreds of young people with buttons. Now, I appreciate there's an extra layer of complexity around this, and that's right and proper. But I think maybe just going forward, we could maybe just have a wee look at that to see if there's a way that we can push the budget a bit further to make sure that more young people get the benefit of the programme. I guess that's probably where I'm coming from, as opposed to maximising how many young people can get this experience, because I think it's hugely vital.
Thank you, Councillor Cosby. And I am sensing that we're all in agreement on this, that officers go away and bring something back and see how we can improve or retarget that budget to make the maximum impact. Okay, members, that has been proposed and seconded. So if there's no further questions, we'll move on to the next item. Okay, we'll move on to item 4.3, and this is the neighbourhood renewal applications for 22-23. And again, this is Gillian.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, item 4.3, neighbourhood renewal applications for 22-23. An application has been submitted to Department for Communities for continuation funding for the neighbourhood renewal, sport in the community and building sustainable communities programmes for 22-23. I'm delighted to tell members that letters of offer have now been received, and the recommendation before you tonight is to give delegated authority to the Strategic Director to accept the letters of offer received for the two programmes listed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Councillor Park. Thank you, Councillor Park. Councillor Cosby.
Thank you, Chair. While it's always welcome to get some money from other departments, government departments, I think my views on neighbourhood renewal are not, wouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I suppose my question is, I think some time ago, and I can't remember exactly when, I'll have to do some minute research on that, but we did mention this before around neighbourhood renewal, and particularly come back to the department around the difference that it has made in the areas that have benefited. Neighbourhood renewal has been a programme that's been in existence for more than a decade. To my mind, I would like to think that with the investment that has been put into neighbourhood renewal areas, that there would have been some shift in the social indices that would be used to classify an area as being a neighbourhood renewal area. And I'm wondering, has the department done any work on that? And have we checked, or do we know as council, have we any statistics or figures around some of that? Because I think it's really important. There are areas that had just missed out on neighbourhood renewal in previous times and actually have got significantly worse across the life of the neighbourhood renewal programme. And I would be keen that council would maybe start communicating with the Department for Communities to say, that we think time is now for a review. Appreciate that will require a minister, and we don't know where we will be in a few weeks' time with all of that, but most definitely it is something that we need to, as council, be focusing on here, because there are areas that are missing out and areas that are in desperate need of additional resource. And certainly I'm thinking of my own constituency along the interface there, Portadown, whilst a small slither of that area falls in vast areas like Killigamane, Brownstown, Rectory, Corcrane have all been missed, whilst some of the statistics around those areas, indeed even the Anna area has slipped quite significantly in terms of that and has been missed entirely. And I'd want to see a rebalancing of that going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cosby. I'll just maybe bring in Seamus. Do you want to? Alison? Thank you. I'll bring in Alison Clennan.
Thank you, Chairman. And just going back to the point that has been raised, under the neighbourhood renewal programmes, which stretch across both health and recreation and the community development departments, in planning for the application process on a yearly basis, the Department for Communities do provide area plans and area statistics for our 4 areas, which are Lurgan, Brownlow, Portadown and the Armagh area. They are very comprehensive reports and do contain quite a number of statistical reports as well, which show different trends. Probably what is quite apparent from all of the reports year on year is that whilst there has been progress in some areas, there's still noticeable gaps between neighbourhood renewal areas and non-neighbourhood renewal areas. We'd be more than happy to provide members with those statistical reports if they feel they would be of benefit. Just to mention as well that Department for Communities are currently embarking and have commenced a review, the People and Places review, which will, I suppose, redefine neighbourhood renewal going forward. Neighbourhood renewal in its current context has been in existence for a long time, and all of the partnerships that we would work with have long mentioned about the issue in terms of geographical boundaries and the need for that to be looked at as well in terms of deprivation. So I know that is something that will be looked at over the coming months. This is the last year of neighbourhood renewal in its current format. They anticipate we will go into a transitional year in 23-24, and then with whatever the new programme
will hold in the time span after that. But as part of that process, they are about to commence with the development of locality co-design groups, which will involve representation from local councils and will be coterminous, with our council areas. So members and Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership members and community representatives will have an opportunity to hopefully help shape neighbourhood renewal going forward. So we will keep members posted.
Thank you, Alison. Alderman Spears.
By and large, I would support, and I heard what Alison has said fairly clearly in answer to the question posed by Councillor Crosby. Yes, I have a little knowledge of this programme in its application in parts of Armagh, and any programme that is evaluated after a period in operation, it must either be doing what it should do, or if it's not doing what it was intended to do, it is obviously needs revised in some way. And I certainly welcome the fact that there will be a strategic look at this programme. I do believe that there are areas that were originally missed or just failed to get through that haven't moved upwards. In fact, that probably moved downwards. And at the same time, some of the areas that have, and I know there has been some good programs, and that has happened in some of the areas, and that is welcome. But I still do believe we do need a fairly clear evaluation of what has worked and what hasn't, because if you're going to do the same thing and have the same thing over again, if it hasn't worked the first time, it would be wise to have it tweaked with a view to making it better or different or whatever. So I will watch with interest what is happening in relation to this, but I do believe something needs to happen, and it does need a revision of the social indicators as to how it is rolled out in some of the areas that have been missed. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Councillor McNeill.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just happy to second the first proposal there from Councillor Parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McNeill. Okay, members, that has been proposed and seconded. So if there's no further questions, we'll move on. Okay, we're up to item 4.4, and this is an event request for Armagh Country Agricultural Show. And I'll ask Jonathan to take us through this.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. Members, the report before you tonight is in relation to an event request from the Armagh Country Agricultural Show. Members will note within the report that the agricultural show has been running in County Armagh from 1829. Officers have received a request from the event organisers to hold the event on the 11th and 12th of June. Members will note within the body of the report that should members approve the request that a week prior to the event taking place, that the mobilisation of the event itself by way of infrastructure would be taking place from Monday the 6th of June to Thursday the 10th of June in preparation for the event itself. And officers certainly would endeavour to communicate to the public by way of any interruption in relation to the event itself taking place or leading up to the event, or even demobilising then after the event, but subject to members' request, and I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Jonathan. Alderman Spears.
Chairman, first of all, I have pleasure in accepting and proposing the adoption of this report. I just comment in some respect. I understand why that we need to limit the public on the days in question. That doesn't affect the caravan users. It's not mentioned, but I suspect, as in former years, it doesn't apply. That caravan use is still available in the caravan park. And as regards setting up for the show, a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the heavy work is in an area of the Gosford that currently, daily, there's little happens, as it were, down in the field and whatever. So I don't see that as any particular problem in relation to its effect on the wider public in the week leading up to the show. I certainly know this is a tremendous prize in this borough's calendar in terms of how successful Armagh show has developed over the years, and primarily with a very dedicated group of officers and committee. And I was at the launch last week, and I mean the number of people there and sponsors and enthusiasts and volunteers is absolutely incredible. So as far as we're concerned as a council, I think we can send a very positive signal, and that is certainly in granting this request. And it's it's my pleasure that I make that proposal. But it's a great event for this area, and one that we have every right to be proud of, and proud of the people that put in the time and effort to make it happen. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Spears. Councillor McNeill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking at the dates here because I think there's a misprint. You're talking about Friday and Saturday, the 11th and 12th of June. 12th of June's on a Sunday because I have another big event that day. And normally it's always the Sunday, the day after the Armagh show. So is that a misprint?
Bear with us a second. We'll just double check that, Councillor McNeill. And second. Oh, okay, that's the 10th and the 11th. Jonathan, maybe do you want to respond to Councillor Spears' remarks just about the setting up and about the caravan use, just for a bit of clarity for people?
Yes, certainly in relation to caravan and the setting up, comms are taken on board and would agree that we will minimise the disruption in relation to the setup and the demobilisation pre and post the event itself. So the interruption should be absolutely minimum, and the caravan and camping would be in place as per normal years. And again, it's just the year in relation to the dates, and that's been noted in the report.
Councillor Spears, maybe just get you to say it on the microphone. Is that all right? Or the proposal?
My proposal still stands with the amended date. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll now bring in Councillor McNeill.
Thank you again for letting me back. And again, is there a misprint? Right, that's okay, because we normally borrow equipment off the council for the event that we have up in Drummondine. So I knew then that there was something that didn't sound right there. Okay, thank you. I'm happy to second that. That's the new date.
Thank you, Councillor McNeill, and that recommendation has been proposed and seconded. So we'll move on then to item 4.5, and this is the Health and Recreation Facilities proposed opening for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. And I would ask Paul Coleman to take us through this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. The report in front of you is in relation to the health and recreation facilities and the proposed opening for the Queen's Jubilee. The Queen's Jubilee taking place in June. The current bank holiday arrangements set outside the original paper dated back in September 2018. So we're asking members to refer to the table and to consider the report and approve the opening times for indoor and outdoor leisure during that period. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Members, I would need that proposed and seconded if you're all content. Proposed by Councillor Tinsley. Seconded by Councillor Cosby. Thank you, members. Okay, moving on then to item 4.6, and this is the Sports Development Report, and this is for noting unless members have any questions. Okay, content to move on. Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is the Community Development Report, and we've a decision item, and that is 5.1, and this is the PEACE programme. And I would ask Seamus to take us through this, please.
Thank you, Chair. Item 5.1, there's a recommendation that members approve a 1-month extension for the Peace 4 programme for the letters of offer to facilitate final payments. The detail of this, members, is in the report. It is an extension of 1 month with no financial consequence beyond that. Programme was previously to be completed at the end of March, but allowed to run to the end of April allows extra months to put the claims in. So it's decisions before members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Seamus. Councillor Cosby has proposed that recommendation.
Oh, I've disappeared. Oh, here we go again. I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Alderman Twyble. Councillor Spears.
Chairman, I just want to go back slightly on something that I want to ask a question on in relation to the proposed opening for Queen's Jubilee. It does mention places that are open as normal, and I refer to places that aren't mentioned. Some of our facilities maybe, and I'm not perfectly sure of this, but some of our facilities, I refer to somewhere near home in Rich Hill, for instance, there may be some activities on that day. And I'm just wondering, I was saying that the places like that are closed, or are they subject to normal bookings?
Thank you, Councillor Spears. On this, I'll let us quickly revisit this. I'll bring in Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reply, it does mention Tier 2 leisure centres, which would be classed as Rich Hill and some of the smaller centres, Standard, Guildford, etc. So yes, it's they are listed just in the table. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, moving on then to item 5.2 and item 5.3, and that is the PCSP's annual effectiveness report and the Peace Plus update. Members, these reports are for noting unless you have any questions. I'm not seeing any lights, so we'll move on. Sorry, Councillor Cosby.
Thank you, Chair. And just in relation to the PCSP report and the annual effectiveness report that's contained within the papers, I don't think anybody can underestimate the value of the work of the PCSP, and in particular the partnerships that it brings to the borough, and the responsiveness that it also brings as well in terms of community issues. And I'm thinking about some of the initiatives around antisocial behaviour, and particularly at the height of lockdowns. They're very quick and responsive on new and emerging issues, for example, increases in domestic violence abuse, and they have to be commended for that, and particularly our staff in the department. One of the initiatives that was rolled out many years ago by PCSPs with the support of the Department of Justice was that of the provision of a facility where those who find themselves carrying a knife for whatever reason would have been able to dispose of such. Of course, it won't be a surprise to members that that I would raise this at some stage, because an agreement in this committee on the 13th of December contained within the papers that was ratified at the monthly in December suggested that we should write to the Justice Minister on the very issue of providing bins and for the disposal of knives and dangerous weapons. Since that period of time, it has been widely reported that a 13-year-old in Portadown was caught with a very, very dangerous blade and quite sinister. And members across the chamber will engage with the police on a number of matters around these issues, probably in recent months. I want to put on record my thanks to the officers for sending the letter. It was sent, I believe, on the 12th or 13th of January, just after the Christmas break. But I also want to put on record my sadness that the Justice Minister has clearly not given the safety and welfare of our children enough consideration that she could even reply to a letter to this council that was unanimously agreed. And I think that's quite shameful. The Justice Minister couldn't even respond in a reasonable matter. In fact, I believe that they have a part-time system in place to respond to such letters. We're the largest council outside of Belfast. We raise legitimate concerns about the safety and welfare of our citizens, and in particular children and young people. That has been highlighted by parents, by schools, by youth organisations, and by the PSNI. And yet Minister Long has been unable to find it in a timely manner to be able to respond to a simple letter with an answer, yes or no. So the question that I would ask the Minister is, does she care about the safety and welfare and the issues that we raise in this chamber, or is she content to plough on and do her own thing and ignore the democratic elected members of this place and in this committee and in this council? I think it's unacceptable. I think she needs to consider giving us a response. I suspect maybe that the response might not be what we would like from her, but of course she may not want to divulge that just before we all go to the polls on the 5th of May. But at the same time, she could have at least been courteous to us, Mr. Chairman. I would also ask, because it's very clear that he has quite a significant amount of influence within the Alliance Party, and maybe with the Minister, that Councillor Tennyson would maybe ask the Minister to explain to us why she cannot be bothered to respond to the democratically elected members of this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cosby. I'll ask Alison maybe to come in at this point.
Thank you, Chairman. And yes, I will follow up on the point that has been raised by Councillor Cosby in terms of a response, and we will certainly chase that up with the Minister's private office. I also just wanted to advise, and it probably follows on in terms of the flavour PSP effectiveness report, that in terms of being a proactive partnership in our borough, that the members of the PCSP team have been doing a bit of work and are currently developing an education and awareness raising programme with the Armed Response Unit locally here in the place that they will deliver out to youth clubs and to schools to try and continue to educate and raise awareness amongst young people in terms of the risks and very serious consequences of knife crime and carrying weapons. So we will continue to be as proactive as we can on the ground with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. And look, it's some very valid points have been raised. I suppose what I'm thinking, Alison, is about the rapid bins that they have for drugs. Is there any way that those bins could double up as a drop-off point for knives? Is there enough bins? Is another question. Is that something practical that we could do?
Thank you, Chairman. I think there are probably two different types of bins. There are processes and protocols in place for the rapid bins, which are for the safe disposal of legal drugs. However, the knife amnesty bins that were part of the original scheme would have been in place within our own recycling centres. Now, we're going back probably quite a few years, but we can do a bit of work to look to see if they are still in situ. But we would have to liaise with the police. They would have been responsible at the time for the emptying and safe disposal of those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. No further lights, folks, so we'll move on. Item 6 is correspondence, and I don't have any. Item 7 is a confidential report. Could I seek a proposer and seconder to go into committee for the consideration of these items? Councillor Flaherty and seconded by Councillor Tinsley. I just have a wee short statement to read. Members and online viewers, in accordance with Schedule 6 of the Local Government Act, we will now be moving into a confidential session of the Council. This means that we will be turning off the public feed of the meeting. This will be returned when the meeting is restarted. Can I now ask the ICT officers to please turn off the feed and confirm with me when the confidential section of this meeting can proceed? done, please. Thank you. Our members, we're back live and we're on item 8, and that is any other relevant business. And I have one item of any other business. So could I ask Councillor Nelson to bring that before us?
Thank you, Chair, and hopefully you can hear me okay on this occasion. Chair, this is something I have raised before in the past, and I want to give a shout out to the P7s in St Patrick's Soccer Common. They've recently written to councillors, I think, across the DEA about this issue. They've recently made their confirmation as well, just last week, so well done on that, and just to wish them good luck in the final weeks of primary school as they embark upon their exciting adventure in secondary. But what they basically wrote to me about was dogfiling at Craigavon lakes, that they have spotted in recent weeks with the good weather a huge increase in it. A number of them have walked in it, cycled in it. They've noted dog bags hanging on trees, thrown on the floor. And I think to hear that from our young people, our future generations, actually really disappointing. It's something I've raised before about the lacquer bins in and around the lakes and the need for more. And I think that was maybe, a year ago now since I last raised that. So, look, whilst I don't expect officers to have answers tonight, I would really appreciate if officers could look into this for me. And so that in these brighter days when the lakes are going to be used by a mammoth amount of numbers, I would suspect, given all that's going on in and around our lakes, that we have the processes in place to ensure that it's clean and tidy, particularly for our young people that are using it.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson, and I believe that Barry Patience is already looking at this issue and will be bringing something back through, I assume, the Environment Committee for this committee. Yeah, and we'll update members with Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Chair, and well done to the school for highlighting this. But I just wanted to make a note that I didn't receive, and I was just checking with Alderman Twyble, he didn't receive an email either. So it's just, I don't want Councillor Nelson that it should, that maybe it comes out that we didn't support it or we didn't go back to the school. I just want to make it clear they didn't contact me in the first place, or I would have been back, well done to them. So it's just by way of just passing on the support, and if all the young people could get behind that. Maybe the next time they can do litter as well. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tinsley. It's a very valid point. To see young people taking such an interest in our environment. I know in my area we have a youth club out tonight, and we have young people picking litter up around Carna Forest, which is one of our facilities. So it's great to see that happening, and that message of education getting out among our young people. So well done to all. So, okay, members, we've come to the end of our meeting. I'd like to thank officers, yourselves, our IT staff. If we don't see you, I wish you all a very peaceful and happy Easter break. So, thank you.